Certain moments are etched into memory, like silent phantoms, intangible yet impossible to forget. They leave a permanent mark on the soul, unable to be erased. One such moment came to me 3 years ago, altering everything in an instant. What began as a simple family outing, a joyful picnic to celebrate Jack's 18th birthday, turned into something entirely different. I had spent the morning preparing dishes, baking pies, and imagining a day filled with laughter and sunshine. But, as usual, my husband Will was consumed by work, a familiar pattern in our lives. I often wondered when the facade of our seemingly perfect life began to crack, like old furniture splitting at the seams. To the outside world, we were an ideal family, a lovely home, well-behaved children, always smiling and immaculate. Yet, only I knew the darkness that had crept into our insulated world. Will, ever eager to stay busy, was like a shadow, vanishing into the chaos of his office life, while I sank deeper into loneliness. That day at the beach, as the sun warmed my skin, it also illuminated the emptiness consuming me. Jack and I were carefree, tossing a ball and reminiscing about amusing memories. For a fleeting moment, I looked away, and in that instant, I felt the gentle touch of his hand as he applied sunscreen to my back. It was a simple, innocent gesture, maternal even, but as the hours passed, it lingered in my mind, taking on a different meaning. Jack's presence began to fill the void Will had left behind. His words, casual yet tender, and his considerate actions drew me into a warmth I hadn't felt in years. He noticed me in a way Will no longer did, and that realization struck me with a mix of gratitude and despair. As we sat on the sand, surrounded by laughter and celebration, I felt myself drifting further away. The joy I had planned for the day was eclipsed by a stillness that forced me to confront a painful truth. The passion I had once craved in my marriage was gone. When we returned home, Will was exhausted and indifferent, barely acknowledging me or asking about our day. Sitting at the kitchen table, I felt the weight of his absence, no longer subtle but overwhelming. I had become a mere fixture in his life, a backdrop he rarely noticed. Alone with my thoughts, I blamed myself for allowing things to fall apart. The woman I once was, vibrant and proud of her family, felt like a distant memory. Now I was a shadow, desperate to be seen, to matter, to feel needed. That evening, as I watched Jack listen attentively, his youthful, hopeful eyes reminded me of the woman I used to be. He seemed to embody a trust and sensitivity I had long forgotten. Then, in an unassuming moment, his gentle touch on my back stunned me. His gaze, filled with a kindness I had never experienced from Will, met mine, and everything shifted. All the loneliness, the suppressed emotions, the unwillingness to continue this charade, they all surfaced at once. It felt like a silent storm overtaking me, exposing truths I had tried to ignore. Standing on the shoreline that day, surrounded by people yet utterly alone, I realized I had constructed my own prison. I needed to summon the strength to break free. The bond forming between Jack and me wasn't love, yet it was unbearable. It was a connection born of loneliness and longing, a cruel mirror reflecting all I had lost. Jack's expression shifted from amusement to confusion as he noticed my turmoil. We were both teetering on the brink of something monumental, yet forbidden. How could I care for someone who was never meant to fill that role in my life? The connection between us was built on separate shores of hope and despair, each wave threatening to wash away the fragile boundary between them. In that moment, I understood this wasn't love. It was a bleak, unrelenting awareness of time slipping by, of the losses that had accumulated and could never be reclaimed. Standing on that vast shoreline, caught between love and resentment, I saw Jack as a light and Will as a shadow from my past. Yet, even as the tide pulled at my heart, I knew the only way forward was to face the truth, no matter how painful it might be.